Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
All right, great to have you with us on the show today. NIL event last night in Philadelphia was a great success.
Good. How was it? How was it seeing Saquon, seeing James, everyone?
Oh, it was great. It really was. And it was just a great group there last night. Really enjoyed it. Had a good time, and got back in time to talk about. I didn't see a second of the Celtics game.
So you didn't get to watch them get throttled?
Again, there's just something about that team that a lot of championship teams, the great ones, they'll lose games along the way.
Yeah, everyone does at some point.
You know, because you have to win 16 of them. So, I mean, how many does it take? I mean, you know, it's not like this team isn't 5-2 in the postseason. They are. But it's the way they lose. I know it's a general saying, and it's especially applicable to a lot of teams since the Warriors started this whole thing, but the Celtics live and die by the three. They took 35 last night and made 8. But it's just what hurt them last night. I'm just going on pure numbers because I did not see a second.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be one of those talk show hosts who goes, "Well, this is what I think happened."
Yeah,
I didn't see anything. I'll tell you straight out, I didn't see it. But it looked like two pivotal guys they need to get something out of. Derek White and Drew Holiday had nights where they did not play well, or did not shoot the ball.
Didn't shoot very well. Yeah,
and when that happens, that derails them in a lot of ways. So they've got to go to Cleveland now. I know they have to get one.
Yeah,
right? And you know, for Cleveland, I'm sure they feel like they have a lot of confidence. Yeah, Cleveland didn't really play great against Orlando.
Yeah, that entire series was just sad. If you're looking at the first round series in the East, it was the highlight was the Sixers Knicks, and the low was the Magic Cavs, where it was just bad basketball.
Yeah. So,
and part of this, if I may look at just the numbers. I know we don't always just talk numbers, but just numerically, they were tied at halftime, 54-54. The second half, the Cavs blew out the Celtics. That was the big thing. They won the second half by 24 points. And the Celtics scored at 24 and 16 in the last two quarters. That's just not good enough in any game. It's not good enough.
Nobody.
And the Celtics, as you said, Drew Holiday, Derek White combined for 14 in the game. And the Cavs just won based on Darius Garland finally shot the ball well. He had 14 points. He went 4 for 5 from 3. Donovan Mitchell played lights out. He went 5 for 7 from 3. Evan Mobley had a double-double with 20 points. Karis LeVert off the bench had 20 points. Like, they got production from the guys they needed to for Cleveland. But you would expect the Celtics to at least put up more of a fight, it feels. And
especially on their home floor.
And this has been the thing, like as you've mentioned earlier, and we've talked about, is just this team just seems to lose these games where, like, they let go of the rope. And from what I can gather from people who have talked about the game and those who watched it, is they just let go of the rope in the second half. And they said, like, in the third quarter, we're just not going to win this game. And they just, all their offense goes out the window, and they start focusing on giving Tatum the ball or giving Brown the ball, and they each went 7 for 17. Like, that's just not good enough. Like, Tatum had 25, but it's not good enough.
It's not good enough. I mean, that's the type of game where, like, that's the first time you felt like they missed Porzingis, and you go from there.
Yeah. Al Horford even shot the ball well, which is the funny part. He had 2 rebounds, which I don't know how that's possible as a center having 2 rebounds. They got out-rebounded by 13, by the way, in this game.
But hey, you know, it's what they've done. So, coaches, we talked about this. I don't know.
A few days ago.
No, I talked about the proposal that's on the table to lift the restriction on the number of coaches that can work on the field.
I think I talked about it during spring football, so it was probably about 6 weeks ago I talked about this. And the Oversight Committee put forth a proposal to remove the cap on how many program staffers can actually do on-the-field coaching.
Okay.
There's a lot of analysts, former coaches that are in the role of analysts. I mean, for example, how invaluable would it have been to have a guy like Ken Wisenhunt, who was here, right, physically out there working, who knows the position so well, but as an analyst, he couldn't do that, right? And Craig Bohl is one of the universally respected guys out there, the former head coach at North Dakota State, now the former head coach at Wyoming because he's retired. He's the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association. And he says, look, the bottom line is the landscape has changed in college football. And he's right. He says the competitive equity has also changed. Now, they did put together a similar proposal last year. It was discussed by the NCAA Transformation Committee. And a lot of coaches a year ago thought, hey, it's going to pass. And it didn't.
Is there a reason why?
There could be all sorts of reasons why. From everybody knows that in the Power Four, they can afford more than the Group of Five can.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life.
Alabama can pay more than Missouri State.
Right. And sometimes that comes up. That's usually something in when basketball proposals are made. How the program at St. Francis, which they've done a great job with, is run, and how the program at Penn State is run
It's different.
Are different. St. Francis is bussing all over the place. Penn State's chartering. I mean, there's, they may both be Division I, but they're Division I in different ways. And in basketball, you have, 70 Power 5 schools, some number like that, right? Well, that also means that 293 of them are not. So when they vote on proposals such as this, said, hey, what about, pick one, Appalachian State and James Madison? And can they afford to do this and be competitive? It could very well have been that. Well, the Oversight Committee is scheduled to vote on it next week. I believe the vote is next Thursday. I think Thursday is usually the day they do things.
Yeah.
All right, next Thursday. Should it pass, then it's going to go to the Division I Council again. Now, it passed last year, the Oversight Committee. It was the Division I Council that said finally in the end no. Well, at the end of June, the Division I Council should get it. Now, they say there's more momentum this time. Because, look, there's a lot of mythology in sports, and there's a lot of ideology in sports.
Yes.
So, especially in college sports has a lot of ideology. One of them is we have to make the playing field absolutely equal for everybody. Well, that's impossible.
There's an issue there.
That's impossible, right? Troy and Alabama have a couple things in common. Maybe they have three things in common. They both play football. They're both in the state of Alabama, and they're both Division I. That is where all the similarities end.
Yeah.
Between the two. Right?
You're right.
It's not as if, Jared Parker, former Penn State assistant coach, now the head coach down at Troy, right? Troy is a very good team, and a lot of people aren't willing to schedule them. But they're not sitting there with a schedule that has on it Texas, Oklahoma, LSU, Texas A&M, Georgia, and with a 100,000-seat stadium.
Yeah, you're right.
So, there are similarities. They both play football. They both play in the state of Alabama. They're both Division I.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, then there starts to be a massive separator between the two. And you can't sit there and keep it equal. Oh, if we do this for Alabama, it has to be the same for Troy. Well, I'm sorry. It's not the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just a simple reality. Alabama's one of the 18 schools that garner 50% of the TV ratings out there, and Troy is not.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, I mean, not even close.
Yeah.
Now, are there concerns about how big staffs are? Sure there are. But I think that's up to the staff and up to the athletic departments as to what they feel they can afford as a budget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have too many, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You can have too many.
It's called too many cooks in the kitchen for a reason.
Right. Because it didn't pass last year, that's the one part they're squirming a bit about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think they pretty much thought that last year it was going to pass. Mm-hmm. And I think they were surprised it didn't. And because it didn't, they're like,
iffy.
We think there's momentum, but there's nobody going to be bold about what they're talking about. Coaches say they're adamant they need it now.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, as somebody who's around it, right, I see a lot of talent standing on the sidelines that can help make people better. Okay? But they have to observe. Those are the rules.
Yeah.
And Bowl says, the American Football Coaches Association said it is a hill they want to die on. Now, remember, the American Football Coaches Association, by them allowing them to be on-field coaches, they are, that's Bowl and his group protecting it's not a union. Mm-hmm. So it's not a union, but essentially they're doing the best they can to expand the group and the rank and file. I mean, so it makes sense.
I also just personally think this could be a good thing because there's a lot of talent on the sidelines, and there are a lot of young coaches who aren't completely able to show all of their talents because they aren't able to be on the field, let's say. And now we're going to see a lot more if this is to pass and if this is to happen. Let's say, yes, of course, Ken Wisenhunt is here. Like that, he's a known commodity. He's a top talent. Right. But you're going to see a lot of these young coaches get their shot doing something like this, and all of a sudden you're going to see a lot more coaches rising through the ranks, doing a lot more, and that's going to be a positive thing for not just college football, but also for the pros, where we see this happen a lot of the times with, like, what was the Washington team back in like 2016 when they had like this ridiculous staff of Shanahan and McVay and all these guys who are now NFL head coaches because they got their shot on the field and all of a sudden they exploded. Right. And this is going to do the same thing for college, and that's a good thing.
Well, and sometimes you find a spot, just as a spot, as a town, you really like that fits you, but you're an analyst or you're a quality control coach. So the Athletic pointed out in an article at Joey McGuire's staff at Texas Tech. McGuire said his former quality control assistant, James Lockhart, didn't want to leave Texas Tech. But he goes to Texas Rio Grande Valley in January because he gets an on-field coaching job with an FCS school.
You can keep a lot of your guys.
All right. It's like, okay.
It'll cut a little bit of the having to go down to go up pipeline to some extent.
I mean, what would happen is probably this. Right now you have 10 coaches. All right. So each one would get an assistant to the assistant coach. So you'd probably be able to add 10.
So you got 20 guys.
Second offensive line coach. For example, Matt Rule. When Matt Rule went to the Giants before he came back to be the head coach at Temple. When Matt Rule went to the Giants, he was the assistant to the assistant offensive line coach. I feel like we're doing the office here. The assistant to the assistant regional manager. Right? Well, that's probably what they would do. And I could see that happening. I also could see, for example, like Penn State is somebody dedicated to special teams, but Justin Lustig also, as the 10th coach, he helps with nickels and outside linebackers. So, I mean, you're going to see, if that were to happen, There's also a compliance issue. So let's go back to Nebraska again. Pre-Matt Rule. This is an issue that Scott Frost ran into. They're very difficult to self-enforce the rules, all right? And if you let an analyst or a quality control coach run, for example, a special teams meeting, well, one compliance director told The Athletic that compliance staffs are simply too small and too busy to sit in on every position room and monitor what goes on. Well, remember, Frost got in trouble because they said that the analyst or quality control, one of the two, I think it was an analyst, on field was running special teams.
Yeah.
All right. And it was brought up. So Scott Satterfield said our compliance department is not allowing anybody outside of the 10 to coach, but another doesn't look at what they're doing anyway. The inconsistency is frustrating to the coaches doing it right. Right.
Yeah.
And remember the other day we were talking about basketball rules, and I was talking about the 5-second rule. And I said one of the key provisions of the 5-second rule, when they got rid of it, I mean, there's still a 5-second rule, but like if you're holding the ball, you've got to get rid of it. You know, you either dribble or get rid of it, and there's no 5-second call. Well, as I told you, that's one less rule for them to enforce. That is standing, hey, we're coming 1,001, 1,002. It's like one less thing for them to do. Same thing with this. For compliance people, it would be one less thing to do. And, you know, but it doesn't mean there aren't unintended consequences.
It's always going to be.
Ryan Silverfield, who's the head coach at Memphis, he says you're going to see more of the blue bloods, as he puts it, taking more coaches than the group of 5. And I already pointed that out at the top, right? So if you're a MAC wide receivers coach making $80,000 and Michigan will pay you $150,000 to be on the field and you don't have to go on the road recruiting, you get to be with your family. A lot of guys are going to love that. Well, he's right about that.
Yeah.
He's not incorrect. Says here in the article that few group of 5 coaches have lost more assistants than Western Kentucky's Tyson Helton.
Jeez.
Who annually replaced several coaches hired elsewhere due to the Hilltopper success. But Helton, this is Todd Helton's brother. I mean, this is Clay Helton's brother. All right. Supports the proposal, saying it would actually help him backfill. So when he lost his offensive coordinator, Zach Kitley, to Texas Tech, he promoted the quality control assistant, Ben Arbuckle, the coordinator. He says,
true.
So you'd have that kind of internal. Now, Arbuckle eventually himself left and went to Washington State. But
it would balance a lot better because you may lose 5 guys, but you could have 5 more guys that are already trained to be on the field and do the same things already in the building. So it would almost give you a cushion for when you lose all these guys to the big schools because you'll have more people there. It would be a self-balancing act almost.
So the NFL currently does not have a rule on the number of assistant coaches you can have. So most teams in the NFL have 22 or 23. Bill Belichick was famous at New England because he had 17. Like, he only has 17. Okay, wait a minute. That's okay.
But he had his number. He had a reason for it.
Yeah. So, but also keep in mind something I talked about this week. There's another elephant in the room. No, I'm not going to make a Jerry joke. There's another elephant in the room. And this is the one that has cropped up over the last couple months. And that is the settlement between House and the NCAA, where now every athletic department, should the settlement continue down the path, they're not there yet, right?
They're getting
Just
there.
so you know, they're not there yet. It sounds like they're inching toward maybe, but they're not there yet. But the rumors are running rampant that the number could be as high as $20 million per athletic department. Well, that's $20 million they have to come up with. It's not sitting there already budgeted for.
Yeah.
And in your 3 to 5 year budget projection, okay, you didn't sit there in your 3 to 5 year budget projection and say, hey, by the way, we may have to put $20 million aside a year in case there's the house settlement. This just came up.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking around saying, okay. So now we're talking about how do you pay the staffers? You increase the staff, you have to pay them. I mean, more than what they're getting now. And you also, there's going to be a thought process of, at some point, hey, are we offering a, quote, competitive wage for that position?
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of questions, a lot of things I don't know answers to, but we will get them in due time. And
I'm just saying,
I know.
It's something that is to look for next week because we're talking about what affects your viewing experience of Penn State football.
Yeah.
All right. Both from the opponent and from Penn State. That's why we talk about these things. This is about what you're looking at as a fan. I can sit there and talk about the Celtics Cavaliers game. Okay, the number of people that are sitting there today thinking about Penn State football and what could happen for this upcoming season is still in May is exponentially higher than people are like, oh, what happened to the Cavs game?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the NBA. I was like, it was like,
Speaking of basketball,
by the way, your Missouri State team's going to join Conference USA next year.
That's why I brought them up earlier.
Okay.
They're joining, and so is Kennesaw State, I believe.
Teams number 135 and 136 in FBS.
There we go. And speaking of professional sports, the WNBA is set to announce in 2 weeks' time the official 14th team joining the WNBA in 2026. And as I would like to be known, I called it a month ago when it was announced they want to add another team. I said Toronto, and I was correct. It is going to be Toronto in 2026. They're going to be owned by Larry Tannenbaum, who is the minority owner of the Maple Leafs and Raptors, amongst others. And they're going to play their games in Coca-Cola Coliseum, where the AHL's Marlins and PWHL's Toronto franchise both play. So look at that. The WNBA is adding Golden State next season. And then after that, they're adding the Toronto franchise. And that's big for the league because it has been talked about a lot.
It's more opportunities.
Because a lot of players will get drafted and then get cut almost immediately. We saw it with Ashley Owusu in Dallas that she got drafted and then cut a week later because they just don't have the number of roster spots. Right. Teams have to cut down to 12 players by, I think, like tomorrow or today. So there's now all of a sudden going to be 24 more job opportunities available there.
There's also no Women's G League.
So the fact that we're adding 24 more players and also staffs in both locations is big. And the other franchises that were rumored to be possible were a Philadelphia, Portland, Denver, Nashville, and somewhere in South Florida. My guess would be either a Miami or Orlando. So those are the locations of possibility, and their goal is to add 2 more teams by 2028. So the expectation is at some point next season, they'll announce team 15, and then the season after that, they'll announce team 16. So I'm still putting money on Philadelphia being added, or I'm getting Philadelphia as my guess. I think they'll go big cities still. Philadelphia's huge. Why not? You have a built-in fan base there. So Philadelphia, and then let's go with Portland. Why not? Portland and Philadelphia, 2 peas in a pod. Add those 2, you're looking at 16 teams, 48 more jobs created in the span of 4 years. In terms of just players, that's big. Because then Ashley Owusu, a player like that, could actually make a roster.
Sure.
She's going to be amazing in the professional leagues, and now she's got a shot to make a team. And alongside that in the WNBA, I don't know if you saw this, they announced that they are officially adding charter flights for all of the teams. It's going to be done by Delta. So now instead of having to fly commercial, they're getting charter flights for teams. It's been something that's been discussed for a long time. But finally, the league announced it, saying it's going to cost us $25 million a year, and we have the funds built up to do it, which is big, right?
That helps a lot.
It does.
The chartering part, you can't put for a player, you can't put a price on that.
It's big.
Point A to point B, not having to walk through airports, security, things like that.
And you only fly charter. You're a private jet charter flyer yourself.
Well, I mean, there are times. There are times I fly commercial. When Penn State was in the Orlando tournament, I flew commercial back and forth to Detroit to do the football game. I flew commercial to the Peach Bowl.
I was trying to make a joke, and it didn't go well for me. Didn't pan out.
No. Believe me, there's something great about point A to point B.
Yeah.
That. Well, you get on the plane in State College and you get off the plane in Bloomington. You know, I'll say for if this was a WNBA team, they'd have to go to Chicago, take a flight to Indianapolis, bus to Bloomington, and, it's the way it is.
Yeah. And I have a separate question for you on a different sport, changing subject a little bit. Would you be able to, off the top of your head, if you think of any sport, not including football or college football, because of how long the seasons are, can you think of the greatest season you've ever seen from any team in terms of their sport, their league, what they did, like in terms of record, in terms of all those things? When you think of one team, who do you think of?
I think of the '86 Celtics.
What was their record? What was...
They didn't win 70 games, but they had Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. Oh, and Bill Walton came off the bench.
Yeah.
Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge.
Rick Carlisle.
Scott Wedman, Rick Carlisle.
That team went 67-15. NBA champions, of course. Not half bad.
That's the best team I saw.
There is a possibility that we see the greatest season from any team ever in the span of 2 weeks. And I will stick by that and stick to my guns. And that team is Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. They are one of the top teams in Germany. They've been one of the best teams for a while. And this season, they have a new nickname, which is Bayer Neverlusen. I want you to guess why that is.
They don't lose.
They don't lose. They have played 49 games in both their league and in other cup competitions. How many have they lost? None. 49 games unbeaten. They have already won the Bundesliga, so the German league title, one of the top, I think currently it's considered the top league in the world, soccer-wise. So they won that like a month ago. They are in the German Cup final, which is taking place in a couple weeks' time, the DFB Pokal. They could win that. Then they are also in the UEFA Europa League, and their match yesterday, they were down 2-0 going into the 90th minute, and they scored 2 goals to tie and then to win the match. So then they won the Europa League. They're going to the finals on, I believe, May 31st or May 30th or whatever it is. And they have 2 more league matches. They have 4 games to not lose. And they would have a perfect season. They would not lose a single match anywhere. They'd win their local cup, their league, and a European title without losing a single match. Not one at all. And my camera's going haywire, it seems, which is heartbreaking. But is it weird if I think that's the greatest season of all time? If a team does not lose a single game anywhere and wins 3 different titles? The whole joke of this franchise has been they have never won a single trophy. They haven't won one in 80-something years. And now they could win 3 in the span of a month because they have the greatest season any team has ever had. I think that's awesome. And the club has announced that if they are to win their last 4 matches, currently they're offering fans already the opportunity to get any tattoo at a couple of local places for free of the club with the German league title. And then if they are to win their last 4 matches and go perfect, you can then get a second tattoo also for free, which I think is very cool of the team to do. They're offering it up. They're giving local businesses all the money. So whatever it costs for the tattoo, the team is covering for all of their fans, which I think is something special. And going perfect is not something easy to do. And the fact that they have 4 more games to go is wild. I know you would not be discussing this normally with Jason because he would be sad about the 49ers or sad about the Sixers, but we talk about these things here on the show because they're big and they matter. But they have 4 matches left. They have a match this Sunday, then the Saturday afterwards, and the Wednesday afterwards, and their last match is going to be on May 25th. So in 2 weeks' time, we will know if they are perfect or not.
Maybe the teams they play are lousy.
They've played some of the best teams in the world.
It's a joke.
I know.
It's a joke.
Firing shots at soccer. How dare you? But when you think of just general things that teams do that are tough, going perfect is probably one of the toughest things to do in any sport for a season. We haven't seen it done in the NBA. We've seen the 73-9 Warriors were the best team, and that had Kevin Durant, or the team before Kevin Durant. They went 73-9 without KD, and then couldn't get better than that because losing 9 games is psychotic regardless in the NBA.
They also didn't win the championship that year.
Didn't win the championship that year. We've seen who else? Of course, the Dolphins went perfect for a season. That's tough. The Bears, they didn't go perfect, did they?
No, they lost the game at Miami.
Just the Dolphins went perfect. And I don't know who else who's gone perfect. We've seen Arsenal with the Invincibles in the early 2000s went perfect for a season, but they lost cup games. So they didn't go perfect across the board. Like 53 matches without losing. That's crazy. Right?
Yeah.
I would put it on par with UConn going like 90 plus games without losing. That's kind of where you're at. That's tough. It's really tough. So shout out to them for doing something.
Men's
amazing.
college basketball hasn't had an undefeated team since '76 Indiana.
Yeah, and as we've it's really tough to do that.
And I know I don't want to insult the people at Indiana. I know they think it's the greatest team ever.
Mm-hmm. No, it is one of the greatest accomplishments ever.
By the way, they were in '76 a terrific team.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't beating Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no.
But it is one of those very cool things to see stuff like this happen where a team does something that is and has never been done before. That we've never seen a team go perfect through literally everything before. So it's quite cool and quite amazing to watch. And I don't know, wanted to bring that up here on the show because I think it's very fun.
I'm glad. I think it's a tremendous accomplishment. Obviously, their fans are enjoying it, and I'm sure they're selling out everywhere because they want to be the fan base that goes in there and their team wins.
Mm-hmm. And they have that final 4 matches. It's all they have to do it. VfL Bochum, and then Augsburg, Atalanta, and Kaiserslautern. I know, words, cities, Germany, Italy. But going back to,
don't they play Frankfurt and Munich ever? Or?
They played Frankfurt.
I'm kidding.
I know they played Frankfurt a week ago. They played Bayern Munich a few weeks ago. But like the fact that they have gone unbeaten is wild. Going back to the US of A real fast. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and talked about it a little on Tuesday as well. But tomorrow, will you be at PNC Park?
No.
You will not be there.
No, it'll be a rain out.
It'll be a rain out. Sadly for Paul Skeens, as he is set to face the Cubs on Saturday for his MLB debut. But yeah, it's going to be a rain out. The weather's terrible.
Look, the bottom line is he's pitching no more than 4 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at this point, and see it. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the inner workings of the arm and elbow of Paul Skeens. I'm not going to pretend that. But I watch over and over again the Pirates, for the lack of a better term, baby their pitchers along.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's May. He should be pitching 7 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And be able to do it with relative ease. He should be stretched out to pitch 7 innings.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean he'll pitch 7 innings. You know, he could have an inning where he throws 32 pitches, and there's a day where he goes 4 2/3 or 5, or that's it. It happens. But he should be able now to go 7 innings, and they won't do it with him. So his debut is going to be short and sweet. He's probably going to pitch 4 innings, and then he's
what's
going to be
what's
done.
your guess on number of innings he'll pitch?
4.
4?
4 innings, and I think his pitch count will be in the mid 70s.
I was going 3 2/3. I don't think he's going to complete 4 full innings. I don't think he's getting there. But it's going to be fun to watch him. At least he's finally in the MLB. Apparently, he was taking a nap when he got the call. It has come on out. His girlfriend and the number 1 NIL earner in college, Livy Dunn, posted because she was in Indianapolis for his most recent outing, and they were taking a nap, and she said they both woke up and he found out he was in the Pirates because he saw the notifications on social media before he got a call from the team, which is really funny to me.
Right.
So they found out, and he's traveled from Indianapolis to Pittsburgh, where he's now not going to pitch because of rain against the Cubs, who, if you're going to pitch against one team, it's not a terrible team to go against your first outing.
Skis is fine. He's not.
No, I know.
He's not in over his skis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, he pitched 3 years in college. He was the Friday night starter for a program that has a bullseye on it every time they go out there. I mean, because they're one of the top programs in all of collegiate baseball.
Yeah.
He then gets drafted. He's been terrific in Indianapolis. He's done really everything the Pirates could have possibly asked him to do to this point. My criticism of them is, why isn't he stretched out?
Mm-hmm.
That's my criticism. It's the Pirates, not him.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to keep pitching. I mean, I don't want him to blow his arm out either, but, I mean, at some point, I'm sorry, you're going to be okay. You have to make a decision. What do you want him to be?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want him to be a starting pitcher that gets you into the 7th and 8th inning, or do you want him to be a reliever and just throw him 2 innings?
Yeah. And speaking of baseball players and injuries and all of that, I want to ask you about how you feel about Mike Trout in terms of him as an all-time player. And we're not going to do the rankings, none of that, but just
don't do rankings.
But how do you feel about him in terms of he's been playing better than pretty much ever this season, and then he's now out for 4 to 8 weeks due to surgery for a torn meniscus in his knee. And he decided it came out today, he decided instead of waiting on surgery and just being a DH for the season, to get the surgery and get back to fully healthy, which I think is a better decision because he said he doesn't want to DH. But it's tough to see him there because it has been talked about now a lot of like, but how good is Mike Trout? He isn't winning any titles because the team hasn't been good enough around him. He's had great players. He's had Ohtani, of course. They got Anthony Rendon, which has not worked out well at all. No. But he has been stuck with a team that has been downright bad, and he has been one of the best players in baseball for a decade.
Except how many games has he played since 2019?
But that's the problem. He hasn't played a lot of games. He's been hurt.
So this is, among position players at the moment, a guy that was on a path that you felt could take him to the Hall of Fame. Just like early on, Jacob deGrom gave you the feeling he was on a path to get to the Hall of Fame. But you can't put Jacob deGrom in the Hall of Fame. He rarely pitches anymore. Right? Well, same thing with Mike Trout. He may be a great 5-tool talent, but every time you turn around, he's out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be another lost year for him.
Yeah.
And I feel awful for him because none of these are his fault.
No.
And that's the issue. None of this is his fault, but unfortunately, he just doesn't play.
He doesn't, and
that's and not only that. There's the other part to it. I've talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you have actually seen him play?
Yeah, it's the problem. And he's not a guy who's the flashiest hitter because everyone's like, oh my gosh, the Aaron Judges, Juan Soto's, the guy's hitting these monster home runs. The best season home run wise he had was 45 in 2019, which was a lot for him. but he's never the guy to put up 60 home runs. He's always been that 30 to 40 home run
but he's a
level.
five-tool player.
But yeah, that's the thing.
He's stealing bases. Right? But like, look at since we turned over.
Yeah.
He has played. Now, 2020 played 53 games.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what pretty close to the max.
And you've got 2021.
36 games, 119, 82, 29.
Yeah.
He hasn't played a full season of games since 2019, and he played 134 that year when he hit 45 home runs, by the way.
Yeah.
But he's only been in the playoffs once. He hit a home run in his first playoff at-bat. You thought this is going to be fun, and then went 0 for his next 12. So you can't sit there and say in his 14 years in the major leagues, he's a surefire. There'll be people say he's a surefire Hall of Famer. I'm sitting there going, I can't do it. I could not vote for him. Not because I don't like him, because when I watch him, I think he's a tremendous player.
Yeah.
But he doesn't play. It's the same thing with Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is out almost every year. He's out twice a year. Now, he hasn't been out yet this year. He's not been out yet this year. But it's like, how could you possibly say that Aaron Judge? Easily. Hey, your ability is based on availability.
I will bet Mike Trout gets in the Hall of Fame.
How?
Just his overall, the view people had on him for that, what was it, like 10-year stretch?
How?
2012 to 2019?
I mean, look.
That's 7 years.
He has 378 home runs, and he has, a 299 batting average. We all know he can run. He does all these things. But so did Fred Lynn.
I know. 4-time MVP or 3-time MVP.
So did Fred Lynn.
Yeah.
Okay? And Fred Lynn in the postseason produced big at times. Okay? He is an exciting, dynamic player that everybody knows who he is. But that doesn't mean he's a Hall of Famer. Now, next to Harold Baines, who's in, if that's your new standard, he's in. But if I'm voting, and I know I can vote for 10, so it's going to depend on who else is on the ballot.
Yeah.
And you can't have, he's played 14 seasons. And in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons,
he only cracked 100 once.
Right. And again, 2011, he was a call-up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 6. So now we're basing everything on 8 years. And one of those years, he played 114 games. Another time, 134. It's not his fault, but he gets hurt all the time. And I think at some point that kind of makes you pause about whether or not he's a Hall of Famer. He can't help the team he's on.
Yeah, his team has been downright terrible.
So he can't help that part of it.
Outside of Ohtani, who's been on the Angels, Albert Pujols in the twilight of his career.
Well, everybody brags about Ohtani, this, Ohtani, that. Ohtani's never played a postseason game.
It was basically Ohtani and Trout trying to win games, and they couldn't do anything.
Right. And in the division, well, they had the Astros. Now they have the Rangers.
But even so, God, they were terrible.
But they haven't been good. And he would be a difficult call for me. This is not the Gale Sayers call where, Sayers had a couple 1,000-yard years, and he was electric.
He was the best player in the league for a few years.
But he tore his knee up in his second year, I think. In fact, I think the guy that hit him was Jimmy Johnson, who just passed away. And Jimmy Johnson, the great corner of the 49ers, whose brother, the legendary Rayford Johnson, the decathlon champion in 1960 in Rome. But there's certain players that have a short window. Sandy Koufax retired at 30.
Yeah.
We all know what happened with Gale Sayers. Terrell Davis didn't have a long window, right? So maybe you vote on the window, but see, Terrell Davis's window included like Super Bowls.
I also think
he has not been in a great
Yeah.
situation, okay? Because the
Yeah.
Angels have not been good.
They've been
So he has
terrible.
not had a chance to
I want to.
except for
Yeah.
one showcase to show what he can do. But you can't keep exiting the lineup, and it's not his fault. He didn't do
Yeah.
anything wrong. It's just things happen.
I want to bring up the Hall of Fame part of it. Not him particularly, but just how the Hall of Fames in the MLB, NBA, and NFL in particular work. Because those are the ones that are the most talked about. Because the MLB one, if we get one player in, it's a lot. Like, it's crazy seeing a guy get in at this point.
And it's because of the 75%.
Because of the 75% rule. You see guys get 74.3%, they don't get in.
Right.
So
That's why I laughed about the Yankee fans. Yeah, they didn't vote Derek Jeter unanimous. Look, just get one vote over 75.
just
and
crack
they-
75. That's all that
right,
matters.
and they give you a jacket and a bust.
Yeah. Like this past year, Todd Helton, 72%, sixth year, did not get in. Billy Wagner, 68%.
Well, Helton got in this year, right?
Helton got in
This year.
This year he did.
Yeah, the year before
But the year
he
before that was 72%. Sixth year, didn't get in. Billy Wagner, 68%. Ninth year, didn't get in. And then you've got Andrew Jones, Gary Sheffield, Beltran, A-Rod, Manny. Like, you go down the list, and these guys, like, they're, like, almost there.
Yeah,
They're
Bob
almost.
Nightingale told me he changed his vote on Billy Wagner because he said, I started looking at the numbers. He said, and we're in an era now, like, I'll give you the month of April.
Mm-hmm.
The month of April, for the first time ever, had 7 players strike out 44 times.
Mm-hmm.
And an 8th player, Joey Gallo, struck out 43.
Mm-hmm.
O'Neill Cruz, by the way, is in the Hall of Shame there. And he said, because of the number of strikeouts today,
It's skewed.
he said, when I look back at Billy Wagner's numbers where people like felt it was a badge of dishonor to strike out, as opposed to say like, it's no big deal. I mean, no, these knuckleheads have people thinking striking out is okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what a bummer. It's like a fly ball to the warning track. I'm like, okay. No offense. I hit a fly ball to the warning track. I feel like, well, hey, I made good contact there. I strike out. I'm disgusted with myself beyond words. How could you not hit it? But
Yeah.
they make it seem like today it's just another out. Well, that attitude is permeating its way through Major League Baseball, which is a bad thing
It is.
to have happen. That's why he has started changing his vote on Billy Wagner, because back then it was like, right, I'm breaking bats if I struck out. And this guy was striking them out left and right.
By the way, next year is Billy Wagner's last year on the ballot. This past season, you need 289 votes to get in. He got 284, so he's got 5 guys to get in the hall.
Well,
this year's class was Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, Joe Mauer.
It depends on how many vote.
Yeah, but he's on the cusp. He needs a few more here or there and a change in numbers, but that's the Hall of Fame for them. For this coming year's ballot, Ichiro and CeCe Sabathia are the 2 big guys going in. Yeah. Ichiro is going to get in, right? I'm not crazy for thinking he's going to get in.
He'll get in with
pretty
with,
guaranteed.
With relative ease.
You've got alongside them Curtis Granderson, King Felix, Ian Kinsler, Pedroia, Hanley Ramirez, Tulowitzki, and Ben Zobrist coming in. Maybe Felix Hernandez gets in. He's the one guy who I think has a shot at like a 50%er. But Billy Wagner's possibly going to get in. 2026 is Cole Hamels and Ryan Braun are the 2 big guys going in, but they're not gonna.
Braun won't make it.
Braun won't make it. I don't think Hamels is gonna make it.
Braun won't make it because of the suspension.
Yeah. 2027, Buster Posey, possibly. And then 2028 is Pujols and Yadier Molina, who I think should both get in.
They'll both get in.
Should both get in.
They will both get in.
And then 29 we'll get Miggy Cabrera. But
Cabrera will be an automatic.
But it's weird looking at the voting system for that, and the fact that we do get to see these votes.
Now, I know that's hardly any get in, but I always feel like the NFL's the toughest one.
It is.
Because you are capped at 5 in a sport that has 53 guys per team. just the mere number of it. They're capped at 5 to get in. Now, there are others, different committees get a couple guys in here and there. Okay, I got that. But it's tough for these guys. When you're only able to vote for 5 guys, that is that's an issue. It's not like them. It's not like the Basketball Hall of Fame. Hey, it's like, all right, here we go. And how many NBA guys can get him? Because the reason you've seen more of a trend toward NBA guys instead of college guys going into the Basketball Hall of Fame is that the Basketball Hall of Fame needed money. Where'd they get the money from? The NBA.
Yeah.
Right? So guess what? They're not getting the vast majority of the guys into the Hall of Fame.
The NBA
college guys don't make it. Look, and I work with people that should be recognized. For example, Don Fisher at Indiana, who got the Chris Schenkel Award, which put him into the College Football Hall of Fame. He announced Indiana's 3 national championships, the whole deal, 51 going on 52 years. He should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield. I mean, come on. I'm going to see Don in two weeks, but he should be in. Right? But because you're associated with the NBA, see that's where there's a couple of things going on that don't match up. I know we're talking about announcers and not players here, but that tells you right away about the bias toward the NBA guys as opposed to the college guys.
Yeah, the 2024 NBA Hall of Fame, the big names added were Chauncey Billups and Vince Carter. And for the NFL, we've talked about it a little bit. I know Dwight Freeney, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis. But they had a list of 25 that they, of course, then shrunk down from the 25 semifinalists all the way down. The semifinalist list, I want to just talk about it for a minute because I pulled it up and we've got a few minutes left. Looking at this list, as you said, is crazy because you've got Eric Allen, great cornerback. Jared Allen, great defensive end, one of the best of that to my era. Willie Anderson, a great offensive lineman. Tiki Barber, great running back. Anquan Bolden, of course, amazing talent. Jari Evans, the pride of Bloomsburg University and my New Orleans Saints, one of the best linemen I've ever seen play. London Fletcher, Dwight Freeney, who of course just got in. Antonio Gates, possibly one of the best tight ends ever. It's up there somewhere. Eddie George, great running back. James Harrison, all-time linebacker. Rodney Harrison, all-time safety. Devin Hester, the greatest return player of all time. Torrey Holt, Andre Johnson, both great receivers. Robert Mathis, similarly, great offense, 3 defensive linemen. Peppers got in. Steve Smith Jr., Hines Ward, Reggie Wayne, all great wide receivers. Fred Taylor, Ricky Waters, great running backs. And then you've got Vince Wilfork, one of the best defensive tackles ever. And Darren Woodson, similarly, safety-wise, didn't get in. And then Patrick Willis, who played 7 years, but was just such a good linebacker for 7 years. He was awesome.
Only 5 guys get in. That's it.
Only 5.
And that's the limit. And, it's...
And looking ahead to this next Hall of Fame class is interesting. Just really fast to wrap up here. You've got, in terms of players who could possibly get in, Eli Manning, Luke Kuechly, Marshall Yanda, Marshawn Lynch, Terrell Suggs, Darren Sproles, Joe Staley, Aqib Talib, Demaryius Thomas, Clay Matthews, and Ryan Khalil are both guys of note for this coming year who could possibly get in. And the finalists from this past year who did not get in were Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Jari Evans, Antonio Gates, Rodney Harrison, Torrey Holt, Fred Taylor, Reggie Wayne, Darren Woodson. I would expect probably Gates to get in. And I don't know who else, maybe a Rodney Harrison or a Darren Woodson.
The debate over Eli Manning is going to be
fascinating.
Interesting.
Because he was never the greatest quarterback. But he led his team to Super Bowls. So like
he won 2 Super Bowls, and both of them were over the Patriots.
One of them was against an undefeated Patriots team, which was still one of the most impressive games I've ever seen anyone play. Where he
I think he'll get in? I do.
I think he'll get in his second time around. I think year two he gets in.
I think he may get in now.
Mm-hmm.
And
he'll be a finalist for sure. But
he's going to bring with him intense debate.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'll look at the regular season, especially the last few seasons of his career.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, I think he'll get in. But that's what you that's why I think when you look at the halls of fame, look, it's supposed to be difficult to get in anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on the hall of very good.
Yeah. You want it to be the best of the best.
Because I would like to point out, being very good as a professional means you have one heck of a professional career.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure it's disappointing in the Hall of Very Good that you didn't get to the Hall of Fame. Okay,
yeah.
I got that part completely. But to me, to get over the top, you got to be the top.
Also,
it doesn't mean you have to have won an MVP award. There are guys that didn't win MVP awards that are in the Hall of Fame because they were just great players all the time.
I will also add there is one more player I did leave out who is also nominated for this coming year's Hall of Fame class who should get in is Adam Vinatieri, the greatest kicker of all time. Should get in the Hall. We saw Hester come in. I think Vinatieri is going to have a pretty good shot at getting in. The last one to be added was Morten Anderson in 2017. But alongside him, you've got George Blanda, Lou Groza, and Morten Anderson. And Jan Stenerud.
But Blanda also got him because he was a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Groza got him also because he was an offensive lineman.
Yeah. But I wonder if Vinatieri's the all-time, the numbers, the fact that he has won a Super Bowls, he's made kicks that have won the games. He's probably considered. He's the best kicker of all time. I'll say it. I'll be the guy to say that. So
if I had to pick,
if you're picking amongst these guys,
one guy where I absolutely needed it, or it would actually be Justin Tucker.
That's fair. Tucker will probably again similarly have a shot to get in later, but when he retires. But again, who knows at this point? We finally got Hester in, though, which is a good thing, because, again, he's the greatest returner of all time. Returners deserve respect. Sure. They're a part of the game.
No question.
So it's cool, and we will be back on Monday. You will have Mr. Jason Lord with you. I will not be here on Monday. I know I'll be leaving you for Jerry.
What are we doing? What's he doing?
I don't know, but I don't want to.
This isn't one of those everybody gets away to a cabin and you hash out all the problems of the world.
Yeah, I'm not going to drag you down with soccer talk here on the show, even though the week afterwards I will be because the Premier League will be decided. So at that point, we're going to talk soccer stuff.
I'm not here every day the week after anyway. I have the Big Ten announcers golf outing in Columbus.
Yes, I forgot.
For a couple of days. Oh no, I didn't forget.
Mm-hmm. You would never forget.
That's that.
Okay. We'll talk soccer another time, though. Here,
but I'm just telling you, you guys are going on some retreat.
Yes.
Right? Why don't you just turn on the mic, use your own instincts, and have fun?
See, I need to get to the same level as a certain analyst of yours, though. I need to get to his level, and then I'll be okay. Analyst, Dick Girardi.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it